I'm Harrison DeShazo, an associate wealth advisor for Waverly Advisors based out of our Austin, Texas office.
Yeah, and I'm Dalton Clary, a financial planner based out of our Birmingham, Alabama office.
Dalton and I today are kicking off a new video series for Waverly where we are talking about financial planning for each generation.
Yeah, and in this first video, we're going to focus in on Generation Z and some foundational principles to kind of get started with and build off of. So, Harrison, I'm curious, as you work with younger clients, whether that be someone just starting out in their first career or it could be the child of a client, what do you see as kind of the most critical first steps?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think it starts early on of just building foundational habits, right? You're building the building blocks that are going to carry with you for the next 40 to 60 plus years. And so I think it's really about just getting started, putting a plan in place, and hit the ground running. And there's a couple of resources I think probably helpful topics. So, Dalton, maybe I'll kick it back to you and we can dive into some specifics on it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest first step for someone, and this really kind of depends on your situation, but it's either debt avoidance or debt payoff, and especially talking about high interest debt, so credit card debt, things like that. They can have 20% interest rates on them. I mean, that's really hard to get out from under if you start letting that compound on itself. And so, what I like to tell people is one way you can think about that is every dollar you put toward paying off high interest rate debt, you're getting a guaranteed return basically of that interest rate. And so, I would say, once you've got that under control, then you're kind of in a good spot and a good place to start building from.
Yeah, great point. I mean, you're right. The math just doesn't make sense, right? If it's 20%, you're not going to out earn that. And so I think from there, the conversation then shifts to, hey, how do I start actually investing for retirement and my future? And so I highlight that first because I think probably the most critical early building block is to look at your company retirement plan, assuming that you have one. Again, but say your employer offers to match 4% of your retirement contribution. Well, that's basically a 4% raise you just gave yourself by contributing to that plan. So free money if you don't take advantage of it. And I would build off of that and add to when you're looking at retirement savings, really important to understand the difference between traditional retirement savings and then Roth retirement savings, right? Roth being you pay the tax now, but it's tax free once you're retired. I think it's really hard to overemphasize the value of that early on. Chances are you're in a much lower tax bracket now in your 20s than you will be in your certainly 40s or 50s. And so paying the tax on those dollars and then letting it compound for 20, 30, 40 years to come is an extremely powerful tool that maybe hurts a little bit right now, but man, it sets you up so well in the long run. Moving off of retirement accounts, Dalton, what are some other opportunities you see kind of important savings buckets for people in this generation?
Yeah, good question. I kind of, view this as kind of a three-step process. So there's an order to savings once you start looking outside the retirement plans. The first step here is going to be getting some sort of emergency savings built up. And so the way that I look at that is, 3 to 6 months of expenses put away in some high yield savings account or money market, earning a little bit of interest, but pretty stable, just for like I said, emergencies or anything kind of unforeseen that could come up. You want to make sure you've got some cushion there for that. Once you've got that, the next thing to look at, so step two for me is thinking about short-term goals. So I'm thinking of anything kind of 3 years out or closer. So, if you're looking at purchasing a new home, if you're in need of a new car at some point, starting to save for that as well in again, a high yield savings account or money market, something that, you're not having to worry about market volatility in the short term for. And so, but other than that, if you've got the emergency savings covered, you've got short term goals covered. The next thing I look at is a taxable brokerage account. So this is where you can put after-tax dollars to work, kind of in the market. And really, the thought here is that it's for long-term goals. So it's got a time horizon of 10 plus years, and so you can kind of afford to be a little more aggressive and invest in some equities there, and let that go. So that's kind of, I would say, when I'm thinking about saving outside of retirement plans, that's the order
Sure.
of operations I like to follow there.
Yeah, I really like your point about, being more aggressive for the longer term, more conservative early on, because I think that really hits at hopefully the message we're getting across, right? Of every dollar should have a purpose. And I think that's really critical early on because, especially in your first career, first few careers, you're still getting adjusted to, hey, these are maybe new paychecks to me. What do I do with these, right? And so I think the most critical thing for all of this is giving each dollar a specified purpose, whether it's one of those buckets that Dalton talked about, so 3 to 6 months expenses, maybe that large purchase a few years out, or really starting to look long term, right? Core behind that is where the money's going before it even comes in. And so I don't think that means, hey, I have to have a line item in my budget for my $10 lunch that I'm going to do tomorrow. But I do think it means that that $10 should be baked in somewhere, right? So expenses aren't hitting you unaccounted for. You have the rainy day fund. Then you also have a fund of, money that you get to spend and enjoy on yourself. I think that's also critical. All great ways to really start to build a framework in your 20s that I think is going to carry with you for a very long time. Outside of maybe kind of the budgeting, bucketing money, any other critical things to take advantage of early on, Dalton, that you see?
Yeah, the last thing I'll say that we haven't touched on yet is workplace benefits kind of outside of a retirement plan. So obviously you hit on, at least wanting to get the maximum match that you can in your 401k or your retirement plan if you have that available. But even outside of that, I mean, a lot of workplaces provide, benefits on top of that. So, looking to see if there's a health insurance plan that is, eligible for an HSA, a health savings account, and taking advantage of that triple tax advantage nature of those accounts. And a lot of employers, there's life insurance, disability insurance kind of included as a part of your workplace benefits. So knowing what you've got available to you, and looking into that, and trying to get enrolled in what makes sense for you while you're young and healthy, and letting that carry forward.
Yeah, all great things to add. I think as we kind of close down here, what I would sum it up as, right, is start by educating yourself, get up to speed on the things we've talked about today, or reach out to somebody at Waverly if you need more information. Second would be to just build a plan. And then third is just execute, right? I think, especially early on, the biggest roadblock for people that I see is trying to get too granular, too perfect with a plan. The best thing you can do is put something in place and run with it. And you're going to figure out over time, here are the core things that really work for me that are going to stick with me for 20 to 30 years. But most important is just start setting money aside, let it really start to work for you. And then you're going to be in a great spot moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, look, thanks, Harrison, and I really hope this was helpful for all the listeners.
Yeah, I do as well. In our next episode, we're going to be covering millennials. So slightly different tone to it, but we're excited about that.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about anything we talked about today, any of the information we covered, or if you've got questions about Waverly and the services that we offer, Harrison and my contact information will be in the description below. So feel free to reach out.
Thanks for watching, everyone.